Right now, you are sitting in a glass-walled conference room. It is your annual performance review. You have spent the last 3 weeks meticulously documenting your achievements, preparing your data, and hyping yourself up in the mirror to finally ask for the compensation you mathematically deserve. Your manager looks at your file, smiles thinly, and slides a piece of paper across the desk. It is a 4% cost of living adjustment. It is an insult. You feel a spike of adrenaline, the room goes completely quiet, and then you do the most destructive, catastrophic thing a professional can do in 2026 labor market. You open your mouth and you start talking. Most people talk their way out of a raise the exact second the room goes quiet. I'm going to show you exactly how to use that unbearable, suffocating tension to force your boss to outbid themselves. When you master the art of strategic silence, you stop begging for a salary increase and start demanding it without saying a word. Before I completely deconstruct the biological flaw that makes you talk, expose the exact mechanics of the psychological pattern interrupt, and give you the precise architectural blueprint to extract massive financial concessions from your employer using tactical restraint, hit the subscribe button and press the notification bell. I post daily videos showing you exactly how to navigate the global labor and capital market using cold, hard engineering logic. You do not want to miss these execution protocols. The most dangerous weapon in a salary negotiation isn't a clever comeback. It is a total, absolute lack of speech. By refusing to fill a void after a low offer, you shift the psychological burden of the entire room directly onto your employer. We are going to learn how weaponized silence transforms a standard, boring performance review into a high-stake test of their financial resolve. What if the secret to a 20% pay bump was saying absolutely nothing at all? We are diving deep into the tactical restraint techniques used by the apex negotiator to make recruiters blink first. Stop settling for crumbs and start using the void to extract the concession that words simply cannot buy. Grab a notebook, it is time to stop negotiating against yourself. Welcome back, I'm Dr. HR. To understand why my approach to the corporate negotiation and human capital is aggressively different from the soft, conversational advice peddled by the legacy HR coaches, you must understand my underlying structural logic. I hold a PhD in Human Resources, a master's from prestigious Tata Institute of Social Sciences in Mumbai, and a bachelor's in Computer Engineering. I do not look at a salary negotiation as a friendly conversation. I look at it as a high-stake algorithmic equation of leverage, latency, and psychological friction. Operating on the ground here in Dubai since 2010, consulting for Tier 1 corporate entities and observing the world elite dealmakers, I have monitored exactly how capital is extracted in the boardroom. The amateur uses words to persuade. The apex operator uses silence to compel. Let us systematically deconstruct this highly lucrative behavioral hack through 5 distinct phases: the biological void, the psychological pattern interrupt, the high-stakes reframe, the unfair advantage secret, and the anchor of inevitability. Phase 1, the biological void, why humans hate silence. If you want to weaponize silence, you must first understand the physics of why silence is so terrifying to the average human being. You must diagnose your own biological weakness. For hundreds of thousands of years, human beings survived by existing in highly collaborative tribes. In tribal psychology, a sudden, prolonged silence is an evolutionary alarm bell. It signals danger, it signals disapproval from the tribe leader. It signals social exclusion, which in the ancestral environment meant literal death. Your brain is biologically hardwired to abhor silence in a social setting. When you are sitting in a performance review and conversation stops, your amygdala triggers a flight or a fight response. Your heart rate elevates, cortisol floods your bloodstream. Your subconscious mind screams at you to appease the authority figure sitting across the desk. It commands you to fill the void, to smooth over the tension, and to make everyone in the room feel comfortable again. Corporations deeply understand this biological flaw, and their HR departments are trained to exploit it. When a vice president or an HR director gives you a lowball salary offer, they will intentionally stop talking. They will look at you. They are deploying a predatory silence, betting absolute money that your biological need for comfort will override your financial logic. And 99% of the time, the corporation wins. The amateur employee panics, They look at a 4% raise, the silence stretches for 3 agonizing seconds, and the employee cracks. They say, well, I know the budget is tight this year, or I was hoping for a bit more, but I understand. In that exact millisecond, the negotiation is mathematically dead. You just negotiated against yourself. You justified their low offer for them, you relieved their tension, and you sacrificed your own generational wealth to do it. You allowed your evolutionary biology to hijack your executive leverage. To become an apex operator, you must train your brain to separate emotional tension from strategic execution. You must learn to sit in the void, feel the cortisol spike, and remain completely terrifying still. Phase 2, the psychological pattern interrupt, breaking the algorithm. Once you have mastered your internal biological response, you must turn the weapon outward. You must execute the psychological pattern interrupt. A corporate manager enters a performance review operating on a highly scripted, sequential algorithm. They have 20 of these reviews to conduct this week. Their script is simple. Deliver the standard praise. Present the mediocre financial offer. Wait for the employee to express mild disappointment. Nod sympathetically. Blame macroeconomics factor and close the meeting. It is a frictionless, pre-programmed loop. Your only objective is to break that algorithm. Imagine you're a senior HR process expert. You have spent the last year deploying complex Lean Six Sigma methodologies into the firm's infrastructure. You ran value stream mapping to identify massive administrative latencies. You successfully integrated the Talmundo onboarding platform with the overarching Oracle SCM architecture, generating high-fidelity OTBI reports. That proves you personally saved the corporation AED 1.2 million in operational friction. You sit down for your review. The manager slides over a piece of paper, offering you a standard insulting 5% bump. The manager expects you to argue. They expect you to eagerly point out the AED 1.2 million you saved. They have their counter-argument preloaded. Yes, but that was a team effort. Or that was expected within your current KPI band. You do not argue, you do not justify, you execute the pattern interrupt. You look at the piece of paper, you look back up at the manager, you maintain the direct, unblinking, neutral eye contact, and you say absolutely nothing. 4 seconds passes, 8 seconds passes, 12 seconds passes. The silence acts as a violent shockwave to the manager's nervous system. You have broken their script. They have no pre-programmed response for an employee who refuses to play the conversational game. The psychological tension in the room compounds exponentially with every passing second. Because you are not speaking, you are projecting an aura of total, unshakable sovereignty. You are communicating that you are completely unfazed by their authority and entirely unimpressed by their capital. You have transformed a routine administrative meeting into a psychological pressure cooker. Phase 3, the high-stakes reframe, shifting the burden of proof. As the silence stretches past the 10-second mark, the physics of the room fundamentally invert. You're executing the high-stakes reframe. In any negotiation, the person who speaks first after a structural impasse is the person who assumes the burden of justification. When you refuse to fill the void after a low offer, you shift the psychological burden of the entire room directly onto your employer. The manager's evolutionary biology begins to turn against them. They feel the suffocating tension. They realize that their lowball offer had structurally offended an apex operator. Their brain demands that they relive the awkwardness. Because you are not speaking, they are forced to step into the void to justify their own offer. They will begin to negotiate against themselves. I know it seems a bit low, the manager will stammer, breaking the silence. We might be able to find some discretionary budget if we reclassify your role. Perhaps we can look at a 10% bump and an equity kicker. You have literally done nothing but breathe, and you have just doubled your salary increase. Let us apply this to the ruthless environment of Dubai real estate. You are a senior broker structuring a high-stakes partnership agreement with an external agency under strict RERA compliance guidelines. You propose a 70-30 commission split in your favor, citing your proprietary lead generation network. The opposing director pushes back, offering a 50-50 split. If you argue, you legitimize their 50-50 offer as a valid anchor point. Instead, you lean back in your chair. You look at the contract, you look at the director. Total silence. The director feels the weight of the silence. The director knows that your lead generation WhatsApp campaign for the Gurugram property showcase at JW Marriott Market pulled in a massive tier 1 investor. The silence signals that you are perfectly willing to walk away from the table. The silence is a physical manifestation of your leverage. After 15 seconds of agonizing tension, the director caves. Okay, 50-50 is a baseline, but what if we do 60-40 on the first 10 transactions, scaling to 65-35 thereafter? You did not beg. You did not raise your voice. You simply deployed a total lack of speech, and the opposition outbid themselves to save the deal. Phase 4, the unfair advantage, secret tactical restraint. To execute this maneuver consistently without appearing arrogant or socially inept, you must master the precise mechanics of a tactical restraint. This is the unfair advantage, secret used by the top 1% of the global negotiator. Strategic silence is not about glaring aggressively at your manager. It is not about throwing a childish tantrum. It is about projecting the calm, detached certainty of a sovereign algorithm. There are strict architectural rules to deploy this weapon. 1. The physical anchor. When you receive the low ball offer, your physical body must completely relax. Do not cross your arm in a defensive posture. Do not fidget with your pen. Do not bounce your leg. Physical movement bleeds energy and signals biological panic. You must sit perfectly still. Your hands remain flat on the table. Your facial expression remains neutral, curious, and entirely devoid of anger. You are projecting the terrifying calmness of a predator. 2. The 15-second rule. When you initiate the silence, you must commit to it entirely. Count the seconds in your head. 1001, 1002. To the amateur, 3 seconds of silence feel like an eternity. You must be prepared to sit in an absolute silence for a minimum of 15 seconds. If you break at 7 seconds because you feel awkward, you have failed the protocol. Let the recruiter blink first. Let them drown in the void. 3. The mirroring pivot. If the manager has an extreme discipline to sit in a silence with you and the tension reaches a breaking point without a concession, you do not capitulate. You use the Chris Voss mirroring technique. You calmly repeat the last 3 words of their offer with an upward, inquisitive reflection. Manager, we are offering 4% adjustment. You. 15 seconds of silence. You. A 4% adjustment. You return to absolute silence. You are forcing them to hear the inadequacy of their own proposal echoing in the room. You are forcing them to verbally defend an indefensible number. You are trapping them in an algorithmic logic loop of their own making. Stop settling for crumbs. Use the void to extract a concession that words simply cannot buy during your next review. Phase 5, the anchor of inevitability, the data mode. There is one critical non-negotiable prerequisite to deploying weaponized silence. You cannot use this tactic if your work is mediocre. Silence is a multiplier. If your baseline value is 0, multiplying it with 100 still leaves you with 0. Before you ever walk into the boardroom to deploy tactical restraint, you must have built the anchor of inevitability. You must possess undeniable mathematical proof of your execution. If you are a content creator and a video editor managing the output for a massive digital brand, you do not just walk in and demand a 30% raise with a blank stare. You walk in having executed flawlessly. You have utilized all 20 to edit 2 to 5 high-fidelity videos a day. You have driven a verifiable 300% increase in the viewer retention metric. You have analytical dashboard proving that your specific thumbnails and keyword strategies map directly to a massive spike in the ad revenue. You lay the portfolio of an undeniable leverage on the table. Then you deploy. The silence works because the executive sitting across from you knows the math. They know the cost of replacing you. They know the recruitment friction, the onboarding latency, and the massive operational bleed that will occur if you walk out of the door. The silence forces their brain to confront the catastrophic reality of your absence. If you are securing the financial future for your 5-year-old child, you cannot afford to play polite conversational games with corporate HR department. You cannot afford to subsidize your employer's profit margin by accepting below-market wages simply because you were too nervous to tolerate an awkward pause. You must act as a sovereign entity. You must build the data mode. You must execute the Kaizen continuous improvement logic on your own career, stripping away the wasted energy of a desperate justification. Look closely at the executives who command the highest salary in your industry. Do not talk fast. They do not over-explain. They speak with surgical precision and they allow their words to hang in the air like a physical weight. They understand that he who speaks the least controls the most. The next time you're sitting in a performance review and the corporation attempts to systematically undervalue your biological and intellectual output, do not argue, do not complain, do not defend yourself. Look them in the eye, anchor your posture, and let the suffocating, unbearable silence forces them to pay you exactly what you are worth. Process the data, execute the strategy, and I will see you at the top.